Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. To tell the story of my upbringing and how my ex-girlfriend, who broke up with me because I was broke, tried getting back into my life in the most pathetic and disgusting manner imaginable, let's take the story way back when I was in high school. I grew up with a single dad who worked most of his days and partied his nights away, leaving me barely any room to experience childhood or be immature. Now, that made me stand out as a person because I had to develop skills and traits that made me socially lovable and enjoyable to be around. One more thing that has caused is that my dad's bad habits caused us to be in a bad financial state, especially considering the fact that we lived in an expensive area that required a lot more than my dad was able to provide, at least taking away the money he spent on his wild nights out. Starting high school, my life is just as uneventful and boring as it has always been, except this year, I met the most beautiful girl I have ever laid eyes on, even till today. What made that girl stand out especially was the fact that she showed interest in me. She started conversations and sparked a flame of interest within me. We started flirting and catching feelings for each other in the best way that high school students usually could. At some point during our relationship or friendship, things took an interesting turn because her interest in me seemed to die entirely. Having the knowledge that I have of her now, I would probably say it was because of a conversation we had about my finances in which I told her that I wasn't rich and that the only reason we lived in a rich neighborhood was because the house belonged to my grandparents who are now dead. Nevertheless, we stayed friends for a very long time and we even started dating at some point, having gotten enough time to fall in love with one another. About another year into the end of senior year of high school, we ended up breaking up because of something that was genuinely mind-blowing. I noticed that she was buying and spending money that was way above her financial means and pay, and certainly above what her parents were able to provide for her. When I asked her where she was getting all of that money from, she informed me that she was going on dates with old helpless men and giving them minor sexual favors in return for large sums of money and expensive gifts. She told me this as if it was the most casual thing in the world, and I was really taken aback by the fact that she was cheating on me and just saying it to my face without regard to my emotions, especially considering the fact that it was strictly financial and something we had never discussed. I'm not gonna lie to you, that made me very insecure because I felt as though the reason she was cheating on that wasn't because she was a horrible person, and instead because I was unable to provide for her or give her gifts and take her out the way I should have. Again, this is just a thinking of a stupid, immature high school student because now my perspective has changed so much. I ended up having to give away one of the most sentimental objects in my life, the heirloom that my mother gave me that she had gotten from her grandmother when she got married, which is a beautiful golden necklace with an expensive sort of rock attached to it. I couldn't tell you what it is, but whatever it was, it allowed me to move out to another city and pay off my dad's taxes to be able to take out student loans and pay for my real estate degree, which can only be acquired via a private school in my country. Despite the system being very rigged to a point of me having to pay my dad's taxes to take up my own loans, despite that unfairness, I was able to overcome all of this and become an excellent student who was favored by all professors and came on top of my class most of the time. I did meet another girl in university who loved me for who I was and didn't care for what I couldn't buy her or give her. She was kind and understanding of my financial incapabilities and loved me unconditionally in a way I didn't think people were even capable of considering the way and the people I grew up with. My girlfriend and now fiancé has been one of the cornerstones to my success, which I acquired when we both finished our education and moved to the capital where my professor basically overruled the market of real estate. He did end up giving me a push by introducing me to his clients and giving me secret tips and tricks that you can only acquire once you work in the field for like 20 years. That ended up giving me a major boost. I barely spent time trying to find clients, and the clients that I had were pretty well established and had large properties. Thus, the margins were just massive. Needless to say, my bank account was exploding as a result of my hard work. My finances were developing really quickly to the point where I started making 7 digits within 2 years of working alongside my professor. At this point, my girlfriend and I are happily living together. I'm considering proposing to her. My job is going perfectly fine. And enter the scene of my ex-girlfriend, who has already revealed her true gold digger colors to me all those years ago by breaking my heart. She ran into me as I was walking out of the fancy restaurant with my girlfriend and was immediately hooked by seeing how expensive my attire looked and the beautiful car I was opening the door for my girlfriend to. It was almost as if she found a solution to all of her life problems and immediately latched onto me. She basically started treasure hunting me. She called me at my agency multiple times, begging to see me and talk to me and sort things out and get back together. She stalked and tracked my girlfriend and I's weekly dates at the fancy restaurant and waited for us to get there to a point where we stopped going to it. She followed my car to my house and showed up in the middle of the night when I wasn't home, and she begged my girlfriend to let her see me and even went to the extent of threatening her if she didn't. The deal breaker for me was when she showed up to a restaurant in which my girlfriend and I were having brunch and started shouting in broad daylight at the top of her lungs, begging me to get back together with her, telling me how much she had always loved me and how the moment our eyes landed on each other, she felt a sinking in her stomach and the gravity of the mistake she had made all of those years ago just hit her. Saying how my girlfriend doesn't actually love me as much as she does and how we go way back and that should be more than any fresh, probably fake interest my girlfriend could have in me. As if I'm not lovable without the money that I made and she was the only person capable of loving me for who I truly was. Not only was I offended by what she was saying, but I was embarrassed and ashamed on her behalf. I genuinely prayed the earth would crack up and swallow me when she got on one knee and pulled out a cheap-ass ring and proceeded to ask me to marry her in front of my girlfriend after having insulted me in the middle of the restaurant. Needless to say, I laughed at her desperate and disgusting attempt to swoop me out of my healthy relationship and into one so fake and toxic because she wanted my money. I held on to my girlfriend and dragged her out of that restaurant before things could get any worse, which probably wasn't even possible. I filed to get a restraining order against her, considering the fact that she did end up showing up to my front door in the middle of the night and threatening to harm my girlfriend if she didn't let her speak to me. I just hope she's not in a critical need for money. Knowing her, she's probably just luxury thirsty. It never fails to amaze me how disgusting and embarrassing it was for her to propose to me for the sake of my money. Not gonna lie, ex-girlfriend seems a little bit crazy, and yeah, sure, it's a little bit dangerous considering how desperate she is about the whole gold digging thing, considering the fact that she has been an overspend of since her high school days. You probably got herself into debt and some shady things, but that's not your responsibility to fix. Anyways, stick to your relationship and focus on yourself and stay away from toxic people. Honestly, what did she think would happen with her proposing to you, or it just make you realize how your girlfriend doesn't love you and isn't worthy of you because she didn't propose to you after having embarrassed herself in a restaurant? She's a little bit messed up in the head if you ask me, but I'm glad that things ended between the two of you long before she would have a grip on you or have you too emotionally attached to get away from her. The extent that some people go to for the sake of money is not only disgusting but amazing at the same time. She literally left you for money and cheated on you and then rubbed it in your face because you couldn't afford to buy her a fancy purse or to take her to a nice restaurant when you were a high school student, and then felt entitled to have you back because she saw your fancy car and nice clothes and beautiful girlfriend. You really weren't wrong when you called this whole situation disgusting. Next story. Okay guys, I've got no time to check my grammar because I'm using an old phone with 26% battery due to the fact my own phone got taken away as punishment. Important backstory. My 16 female, stepbrother 16 male of 2 years is a little person. Term he personally said was okay to use, who nearly everyone at my school likes because he's an extremely funny person. Everyone except a girl I will call Marianne. She goes out of her way to make his life hell due to him being a little person. He's usually good at making her insults into jokes, but she really upped her game lately to the point even her own friends told her it wasn't funny. Yesterday, she made a comment about his sister who passed away and used ableist slurs about them both. Then told him to, himself and save my stepdad the embarrassment of having a slur as a son. He snapped and called her multiple names like the school bike slurred. Then said the only reason she hates him so much is because even he has a M slur, looks down at her. There was other stuff said between them both, but I don't want to get the post flagged. Marianne ended up walking away crying due to the fact that everyone was laughing at her because, again, my stepbrother is extremely funny. Her mom ended up at my mom's house screaming about everything. They wouldn't let my stepbrother explain. Even when I and my brothers, 15 male and 18 male, tried to stick up for him, they basically told us to shut up and painted Marianne this innocent victim. His dad, who is a massive pick-me and flirt to anything in a skirt in my opinion, said some really disgusting stuff to his son and made him apologize. Marianne gave him a "F you" smirk on her way out. My stepdad screamed out my stepbrother extremely ableist stuff, then broke his phone and told him he doesn't want to see him till next Sunday when his mom was due to pick him up. He, stepdad, rang his ex and told her a completely different story, even lied that me and my siblings, said he was harassing Marianne because she rejected him. So here's where I might be the a-hole. I looked up his ex on Facebook and told her the truth about how my stepbrother was suffering at the hands of Marianne, but was too ashamed to tell anyone because his dad knew what would happen. Well, long story short, his mom ended up at our house with her cop brother and my stepbrother took his stuff. She said she's suing him for damages to her son's stuff and that he will never see my stepbrother again. She showed them my messages when they asked how she found out. I got grounded and my phone, iPad taken away. My mom came into my room crying, saying I ruined Christmas because we have to use all of our money for lawyers to get out of the mess I created, and it wasn't any of my business what happened. Not the a-hole. You did not create this situation. Marianne, your stepdad, and your mom created this mess. Telling the truth and sticking up for your stepbrother wasn't any of your business? Wow, your parents get a giant a-hole award for this. Sorry you and your stepbrother are in the middle of this mess. Why would your stepdad automatically believe Marianne but not want to hear the truth? Why break the poor kid's phone? What does that accomplish? That father needs help. You did nothing wrong. My stepdad is a massive pick-me. I've seen him put down my stepbrother and unsuccessfully my brothers, even his own friends, when there's any kind of an attractive woman in the room, and Marianne's mom looks like Margot Robbie, so that's probably the reason. Not the a-hole. Sorry that's happening to you and your stepbrother. Thanks for not letting people get away with it. Hope she wouldn't have said it was you who told his mom like that because you didn't deserve to be punished. But your parents are massive a-holes for doing that, and also your mom is in tears to make you feel bad for doing the right thing. Now your stepbrother's mom should go and make Marianne apologize to your stepbrother. Not the a-hole. Holy crap. Your mom and stepdad created the mess in the first place by siding with Marianne and breaking the phone. What kind of father lies like that to make his own son look horrible when he's anything but? Oh wait, I know what kind. He's Tywin effing Lannister. Be sure to tell your dad what they're doing to you now. Ask him to send the same threat to mom and stepdad if anything should happen to your phone or iPad. Next story. My husband and I moved a couple years ago and he has struggled with the effects of that on his mental health. He still really misses his home state, his mom, and his friends, though he recognizes moving here was the practical decision. We're close to my family who provide a lot of help with childcare, and the cost of living is much cheaper. As part of our compromise, I'm fine with him using his 2 weeks of paid vacation to visit mother-in-law in his home state. For the past 3 years, I've gone with him with our kids. I dread these visits. Mother-in-law has always made me a little uncomfortable. I get the vibe she doesn't like me, and while she isn't awful, she's cold and standoffish and sometimes rude. It isn't bad enough that he needs to call it out, and if she was a good grandmother, I would happily make the trip twice a year so my kids could go see her, but she really isn't interested. Mother-in-law never talks to my kids, never plays with them, never asks to hold a baby. She does the absolute bare minimum to be polite, and that is it. She plans activities with my husband, such as hiking or skiing, which they cannot participate in. They are on that hard trails. She makes a ticking noise when they get too rambunctious, and she's always offering him weed. Having a particular family member that I don't like over, and her husband makes an effort, but seems to have a hard time controlling his language with little kids around. It just isn't fun for me or the kids. It's a lot of added work and stress, and 98% of the visit is just me quarreling the kids so they don't bother him while he visits with his mom. He mentioned wanting to go and see her in January, and I told him that is fine, but the kids and I won't be coming. He was taken aback and I gave my reasons. He said he gets that, but she is still their grandmother, and if we don't come with him, how will the kids ever know? Mother-in-law does visit sometimes, but stays in a hotel and avoids the house if she can. I said, to be honest, why do they need to know her? This upset him and sparked a small argument, and I said if he really wants to bring the kids, he can either take care of them the whole time or pay for childcare because it isn't fair to me. Dude, the way you go about that convo was not to drop a bomb like that and do it so callously. Your request wasn't really a-hole-ish, but the way you went about it certainly was. For instance, compromise. Maybe he could go a week early and you could just join with kids the second week or something. You could have told him your frustrations and concerns about childcare while you're there and how it seems to be falling way too much in your lap. I mean, damn, at least give him a second to process the thought and then have him help you find a solution. People are typically more on board with a plan when they feel like they've had a hand in crafting it. You just kind of told him how it's going to be, which isn't very respectful. Also, he did make a pretty huge sacrifice moving away from his birth family, even though logistically it makes more sense. Seems like the least you could do is make a bit of a sacrifice with your time and convenience, as annoying and not fun as it sounds like it is. I mean, maybe you could have played up that your mom is too loose with the weed around the kids card for my likings and used that as an excuse. All I'm saying is I totally get where you're coming from. I've got 4 kids myself and it does sound like a real nightmare when you visit this lady. But I think you've either got to take one for the team or be a little more clever in how you present these things to your hubs. The execution of the delivery needs work. Stay strong. Not the a-hole. Nothing sucks like being the only parent handling the kids on vacation. It's absolutely exhausting. Your husband and mother-in-law repeatedly treated you and the kids like you're not wanted when you go back to visit. I think you tell your husband that until grandma actually asks to see the kids or the activities she picks are age appropriate, you and the kids stay home. But there is no point in exhausting yourself by going to have the kids know they're not really wanted. Optional. With this ultimatum, give him one more chance this year to step up and help parent on the trip. And maybe you and the kids only come for half the week so he has plenty of time with his mom and old friends. Unpopular, but everyone sucks here. Your husband should pull his weight on these trips rather than leave all the kids corralling to you. That said, not all grandparents are the cookies and milk and let the kids climb all over them, but that doesn't mean they should be cut off from their grandchildren. Your husband lives with your family and hangs out with your parents 50 weeks out of the year. You can put up with him for 2.